Welcome to my channel, The Contagious Cajun. I'm Aaron Lucier, and I'm the aforementioned Cajun. This channel's purpose is varied. Here we can discuss matters from the paranormal, religion, science, philosophy, depression, and the like. Maybe if this channel does well, I'll create separate channels for various topics, but for now, it's an all-in-one. This video is a short compilation of videos I recorded recently, recounting a few of the paranormal experiences I've had in my life. You'll hear of the battle that took place on the stairs, a couple encounters in my bedroom, shadow figures, and more. I hope you'll join me on this journey into the darkness to shine some light on these and similar events. If you enjoy this type of content, please leave a like and subscribe, and be sure not to miss out on upcoming videos. Now, for our main creature feature. Home alone one night, I decided to prepare to go to bed. After brushing my teeth and washing my face, I walked in to my bedroom. The very moment I walked in, I could sense a presence watching me, a malevolent presence watching me. At this time in my life, all I knew was Catholicism, and so I grabbed my rosary and sat down on my bed and began to pray. The presence was incredibly thick, and it felt completely evil. I had never felt such a presence before. Whatever it was, it felt incredibly powerful. As I prayed the rosary, the presence would become stronger, as if it was encompassing me all around, pressing in on me. I continued to pray, but to no avail. After a couple hours of prayer, with no results, my dad came home. I was 17 at this time. I didn't want to give any indication as to what was going on, so I met my dad at the top of the stairs, saying nothing other than, "Go into my room for a moment." He said, "What did you do? Change the room around again?" I was 17 after all. I told him to just go on in, and he did. The moment he walked into my room, he began to swear, but he caught himself before he finished. He then raised his right hand and said, "Satan, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, I command you to get out of here." And immediately after he said this, I walked into the room, where before a thick presence of evil was undeniable, but now was peaceful and warm, as if this had never happened. One night, while I was alone in my apartment, I was sitting in my dad's old recliner, several months after he had died. The TV was off, no music was playing, and I was just simply contemplating life. As I sat pondering, from time to time I would see things moving about, most often in the periphery of my vision. What would appear to be something peeking around the corner of the stairs or from out in the kitchen. I would sometimes see something as if it was peeking out of the closet where I had replaced the door with a curtain. Little things seemed to happen in the room as well. I would see movement here and there, but I wrote it all off. It's just a trick of the eyes. At one point, I had considered possibly praying a prayer of cleansing through my home, just in case. But I decided against it, thinking it was nothing more than my imagination. And that's when I heard that little voice from within that said, "That's what they want you to think." And that was enough. That was enough for me. I got up and prayed a prayer of cleansing, beginning downstairs. But nothing unusual occurred. I then started praying at the base of the stairs and prayed as I walked up the stairs. As I did, I suddenly found myself unable to move, to speak, to even think. My mind went completely blank. I seemed unable to cause a single thought. I was approximately halfway up the stairs, unable to move and unable to think, but my will to fight continued on. I fought to regain control, and slowly, over maybe 2-3 minutes' time, I was finally able to begin to speak. It was a little shaky at first, not because I was scared, but because it was so hard to speak, as if whatever was causing this didn't want me to speak. I finished the prayer, and then I started the prayer over again. And by then, I had regained my full voice, and I began to move up the stairs, going room to room, praying this prayer, rebuking whatever was there, without incident. Another paranormal incident that happened several years ago that may pique your interest. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was in my living room at the time, and I had 2 tables, kitty corner, in the room where my computer sat. My nephew was staying over for the weekend, and he was in the downstairs bathroom that was just off of the kitchen. Behind me was the only light source. It was on the opposite wall. I was on the computer looking for a song to listen to. As I was scrolling through the music, I felt a presence walk into the room, close up behind me. And that's when I noticed a shadow appeared on the wall just behind the computer, just above. The presence then walked from my right to my left, and as it did, the shadow moved across the wall in perfect unison. I turned and looked. Nobody was there. I wasn't expecting anyone to be there, since I knew this was not my nephew. I could tell by the presence. And we were the only ones there. I called out to my nephew to be sure of where he was, although I was pretty sure he was still in the downstairs bathroom, on the phone with a friend, and I was correct. The entire incident probably lasted 10 seconds. It wasn't long, but it was long enough to leave a lasting impression. When I was 4 years old, I was living in Pennacook, New Hampshire, across from the old school on Summer Street. When I was a child, I was terrified of the dark, and I would only sleep with a nightlight on. One night, I woke up. Sitting up and clearing my eyes, I glanced at the wall near the foot of my bed and saw a strange shadow on the wall. The shadow was next to the nightlight, and there was nothing between the nightlight and the wall that would cast such a shadow. I got out of bed, went to the nightlight, and turned the shade to see if that could somehow be casting the shadow. The shadow did not change. I climbed back into bed and called for my mother, and eventually she came into the room. She asked me what was wrong, and I pointed to the shadow on the wall. She picked me up and said to me, "We'll find this together." She then went over to the window and pulled the shade, but the shadow remained. She went about my room moving this and that, but the shadow always remained. The whole time she was doing this, I could sense that she was becoming more and more nervous. In my room, near the door that connected to my sister's room, there was a little cubby hole. There was no door. It was just an open area where we kept our winter clothes and the Christmas tree and ornaments and the vacuum cleaner. It was dark in the cubbyhole, and I knew it wasn't possible for light to be somehow reflecting in there and then causing the shadow. Clearly, my mother was becoming very anxious. After moving some objects within the cubbyhole with no results, she called for my dad. The door to my sister's room was open, and I could see that they were sitting up in bed watching what was happening. My dad entered the room, and my mother said to him, "What is that?" He then walked over in front of the shadow, and looking at it, he said, "What the hell is that?" For the rest of the night, I slept in my parents' room with them. I don't recall ever seeing that shadow again in that home.